The official court summons felt almost comically flimsy in my hands, a single sheet of cheap paper that carried the weight of a formal declaration of war. My name was printed in stark, laserjet black, Alexander Cole, defendant. The plaintiff was listed as the Cypress Creek Commons Homeowners Association. The reason for the suit, detailed in a paragraph of breathtakingly petty legalese, was my unauthorized obstruction of a common area electrical receptacle. The damages sought were $500 for non-compliance fines, plus a court order demanding I immediately cease and desist my obstruction. I read it twice, a slow, disbelieving laugh bubbling in my chest. I was being sued. Over a plug. This whole suburban psychodrama had started, as most of them do, with a golf cart. Specifically, the pearl-white, custom-upholstered chariot of our HOA president, Patricia Dunn. Patricia was a woman who wielded her minor authority like a medieval monarch, and her golf cart was her throne. She would glide silently along the pristine sidewalks of our townhouse community, her perfectly coiffed silver hair unruffled by the breeze, her eyes scanning for violations. A recycling bin left out an hour too long, a non-approved welcome mat, a wind chime that was, in her opinion, excessively tonal. Our townhouses were arranged in small blocks, with garages and short breezeways separating the units. On the exterior wall of my garage, nestled in one of these breezeways, was a single weatherproof electrical outlet. It was installed when the units were built, likely for the convenience of maintenance workers. For the 2 years I had lived in Cypress Creek, that outlet had served a single, dedicated purpose: charging Patricia Dunn's golf cart. Every evening, like clockwork, she would park her cart in the breezeway, run a heavy-duty extension cord, and plug it into my wall. I hadn't thought much of it at first. I'm a freelance electrical engineer. I work from a home office I set up in my spare bedroom, designing and troubleshooting systems for commercial clients. I'm a man who understands circuits, loads, and the flow of current. I appreciate efficiency. While her entitlement was vaguely annoying, the actual electricity draw of a golf cart charger is relatively minimal. I wrote it off as a minor quirk of communal living. My benign neglect came to a screeching halt the day I got my quarterly electricity bill. It was nearly double what it should have been. I'm meticulous about my energy usage. It's a professional point of pride. I have smart thermostats, LED bulbs in every socket, and energy-efficient appliances. A spike like that didn't just happen. My professional curiosity piqued. I started investigating. I went through my house, checking every device, every phantom load. Everything was normal. Then, a thought sparked. I went to my main breaker panel in the garage. The panel was clearly labeled, a testament to the fastidious nature of the original builders. I found the breaker marked Garage EXT, outlet. With a growing sense of dread, I flipped it. I walked outside. Patricia's golf cart was in its usual spot, plugged into my wall. The small green indicator light on her charging block, which was usually glowing brightly, was dark. I had found the vampire draining my account. That single outlet, the one she had so casually commandeered, was wired directly to my meter. For 2 years, I had been paying to fuel the patrols of my own personal neighborhood tyrant. The anger was immediate and white-hot. But I'm a methodical man. I don't fly off the handle. I gather data. I went back inside, flipped the breaker on, and formulated a plan. The first step was simple: direct communication. The next morning, I saw Patricia retrieving her fully charged cart. I approached her, armed with a polite smile and a calm demeanor. "Good morning, Patricia," I said. She gave me a tight, suspicious nod. Alexander.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Tight, suspicious nod. Alexander. "I just wanted to give you a heads up about the outlet here," I said, gesturing to the plug. "I was doing some work on my panel yesterday, and I discovered it's wired directly to my unit's meter. It's not a common area plug. My apologies for the confusion, but I'm going to have to ask you to please stop using it. I expected a flicker of embarrassment, maybe an apology. I was naive. She stared at me, then at the outlet, and then let out a short, sharp laugh. Do be ridiculous. This is a common area breezeway. The outlet is a common area amenity. It's for resident use. I understand it's in a common area, I countered, my patience fraying. But the electricity it uses is being billed to my personal account. I'm paying to charge your cart. Then you should take that up with the power company. She sniffed, climbing into her chariot. This is the designated charging spot. It has buy-in for years. She turned the key, and the cart hummed to life. Have a nice day, Alexander. And with that, she glided away, leaving me standing in a cloud of her self-satisfied arrogance. Step 2 was to go through official channels. I drafted a polite professional letter to the HOA board of directors of which he was, of course, the president. I explained the situation clearly, stated that the outlet was on my private circuit, and formally requested that residents be instructed not to use it. I even offered a solution, suggesting the HOA could install a new, properly wired common outlet at the community's expense. The response, which came a week later, was a masterclass in condescension. It was a single paragraph, signed by Patricia, stating that the board had reviewed my claim and found it to be without merit. The outlet was deemed a common resource, and my attempt to restrict access was noted as a violation of the spirit of community living. That was it. The gauntlet had been thrown. My politeness had been met with dismissal, my reasonable request with contempt. I was done asking. The next day, I went to the hardware store. I purchased a heavy-duty, locking, weatherproof outlet cover. It was a solid metal box that fit directly over the existing outlet plate. Installation took me 15 minutes. When I was done, the outlet was inaccessible, sealed behind a small metal door that could only be opened with a key. A key that was now on my keyring. The reaction was biblical. I received 3 increasingly hysterical voicemails from Patricia that afternoon, which I saved. The first accused me of vandalism. The second threatened me with fines. The third informed me that I was destroying the very fabric of the community. That evening, a formal violation notice was taped to my door. I was being fined $100 for unauthorized modification of a common area element. I wrote a simple response on the "Notice the outlet is not a common element. The lock stays," and slid it under the HOA office door. For a month, a silent war raged. Patricia would park her cart next to the locked outlet, a passive-aggressive monument to her frustration. New violation notices appeared on my door every few days, the fines escalating. And then came the certified letter from the HOA's lawyer, followed shortly by the flimsy piece of paper I now held in my hand. The court summons. She had actually done it. She had mobilized the legal system to force me to pay for her electricity. She was suing me for blocking her plug. I looked at the summons again, and the disbelieving laugh faded, replaced by a cold, quiet resolve. Patricia Dunn thought this was a simple neighborhood dispute she could win through sheer force of will and bluster. She thought she could laugh her way to victory. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I wasn't just a quiet neighbor. I was an engineer. And I was going to dismantle her case, piece by piece, with the one thing she couldn't argue with: cold, hard, quantifiable data. This wasn't going to be a shouting match. It was going to be a lesson in mathematics. My preparation for court was a thing of methodical beauty. While Patricia was likely gossiping with her cronies, confident that the HOA's lawyer and her own regal presence would carry the day, I was building a fortress of evidence. My home office, usually filled with schematics for commercial HVAC systems, became a war room dedicated to what I internally called Operation Electric Justice. First, I documented the past. I pulled every electricity bill from the 2 years I'd lived at Cypress Creek. I created a spreadsheet, charting the usage month by month. The data showed a clear, consistent pattern of usage, far higher than a single-person townhouse should have. It was my baseline, my proof of a long-term anomaly. But that wasn't enough. I needed to prove, beyond any doubt, that her golf cart was the specific cause. So, before I installed the final permanent lookbox, I had conducted a quiet, 2-week experiment. I had purchased a digital electricity usage meter, a simple device that plugs into an outlet and measures the exact kilowatt-hours drawn by whatever is plugged into it. For 2 weeks, I left the outlet accessible, with my meter secretly attached. Every morning and every evening, I took time-stamped photos of the meter's display. The data was perfect. A significant draw every night for 8–10 hours, consistent with charging a large battery, followed by near-zero usage during the day. It was an electrical fingerprint, and it matched her routine perfectly. Then came the final calculation. I used the meter's data to establish an average daily draw for her cart. I multiplied that by the number of days in the 2 years I had lived there. I then looked up the exact rate per kilowatt-hour from my utility bills. The math was simple. Over 24 months, Patricia Dunn had used approximately $970 of my electricity. But I wasn't done. I added the cost of the usage meter $25. I added the cost of the locking outlet cover $45. And then I added a final, beautiful line item. I was a freelance engineer. My time was my business. I had spent approximately 6 hours gathering evidence, preparing documents, and now attending court. My standard consulting rate was $100 per hour. I added a $600 charge for technical consultation and evidentiary preparation. My total counterclaim was not some round, angry number. It was a precise, calculated, and fully documented figure. $1,640. I wasn't suing for emotional distress. I was submitting an invoice. The day of court arrived. I walked into the small claims courtroom with a simple, slim briefcase. Patricia was already there.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Slim briefcase. Patricia was already there, holding court with 2 other women from the HOA board. She was dressed in a sharp blazer, looking confident and powerful. She saw me, leaned over to her friends, and they all shared a condescending laugh. I was the quirky, antisocial nerd who was about to get his comeuppance. I simply took a seat and waited. Her case was presented first by the HOA's lawyer. He was slick and overconfident, painting a picture of a harmonious community disrupted by one uncooperative resident. He presented photos of my locked outlet as if it were a crime scene. He talked about common area amenities and the spirit of the community. When it was Patricia's turn to speak, she laid it on thick. "Your Honor," she began, her voice dripping with false sincerity, "we are a community. We share resources. For years, that outlet has been used to charge the community patrol vehicle," she gestured to herself, "that I use to keep our neighborhood safe and beautiful. Mr. Cole, for reasons I cannot fathom, decided one day to selfishly block that resource from everyone." The judge, a wearer-looking woman who had probably seen 1,000 petty disputes like this, looked at her. "So this outlet, it's on a common meter paid for by HOA dues." "It's in a common area, Your Honor," Patricia said smoothly. "It's for everyone." She smiled, a picture of civic virtue. "Mr. Cole?" the judge asked, turning to me. "Your response?" I stood and walked to the bench. I didn't address Patricia's claims. I didn't argue about common areas. I simply said, "Your Honor, I would like to file a counterclaim." I handed the clerk my meticulously prepared folder. I handed a copy to the HOA's lawyer, whose slick smile faltered as he saw the spreadsheet on top. "Your Honor," I began, "the outlet in question is not on a common meter. It is wired directly to the breaker panel in my home, and I am solely responsible for the electricity it consumes." For 2 years, Ms. Dunn has been charging her personal golf cart using my electricity, without my consent. This is commonly known as theft of services. A murmur went through Patricia's little cheering section. The judge's weary expression sharpened into one of keen interest. My electricity bills for the past 2 years have been abnormally high, I continued, handing the judge the spreadsheet. As you can see, there's a consistent usage pattern that is inconsistent with a single-occupant dwelling. Then, I presented my evidence from the usage meter. To confirm the source of the draw, I installed a digital meter for a 2-week period. This chart shows the daily kilowatt-hour consumption from that outlet. The usage corresponds perfectly with the charging dia. Cycle of a standard electric golf cart. The judge studied the chart. The HOA lawyer was flipping through my documents, his face growing paler by the second. "Finally, Your Honor," I said, my voice calm and even. "This is a detailed invoice. It outlines the cost of the electricity consumed by Ms. Dunn's vehicle over 24 months, based on the meter's data and utility rates. It also includes the cost of the materials I was forced to purchase to protect my property, and a modest fee for the professional time required to gather and present this technical evidence. The total amount owed is $1,640. I placed the final invoice on the bench. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Patricia's smug confidence had evaporated, replaced by a slack-jawed, horrified stare. Her friends were no longer laughing. The judge looked from the invoice to Patricia. Her voice, when she spoke, was cold as ice. "Ms. Dunn."
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
When she spoke, was cold as ice. "Ms. Dunn, is this true? Have you been charging your personal vehicle on Mr. Cole's private electrical meter?" Patricia stammered. It's a common area. You thought it was free," the judge snapped. "You were presented with evidence by Mr. Cole that you were, in fact, consuming his electricity, and you chose to ignore it and sue him instead? You are the president of a homeowners association. You have a fiduciary duty to your members. Instead, you used your position to take something that wasn't yours and then used community funds to sue the victim. This is one of the most flagrant abuses of an HOA's authority I have ever seen." She picked up her gavel. "The plaintiff's case is dismissed with prejudice. Judgment on the counterclaim is awarded to the defendant, Mr. Cole, in the amount of let's see." She looked at my invoice again. "The electricity costs are proven. The materials are reasonable. The consultation fee—" She paused, looking at me. "Given the circumstances, I find it to be entirely appropriate." She looked directly at a stunned Patricia. "The court orders you, Ms. Dunn, personally not the HOA, to pay the defendant $1,640. This is not an HOA expense. This is the consequence of your own actions." But the judge wasn't finished. She looked at my invoice one more time. "You know what, Mr. Cole? Your invoice is a little off. Let me correct it for you." My heart sank for a second. Had I overreached? "You have the cost of the electricity at $970, the judge said. "But you forgot to account for the seasonal rate hikes over the last 2 summers. A fair estimate would put that closer to $1,050. And your consultation fee is too low for the level of preparation here. Let's call it around $1,200 for everything. That seems fair." My jaw nearly hit the floor. She wasn't reducing it. She was adjusting it to a round number that was still a massive hit. "Let me rephrase," the judge said, a grim finality in her voice. "The court orders Patricia Dunn to pay Alexander Cole damages and costs totaling $1,200. Payment is due within 30 days. She banged the gavel. "We are done here." The sound echoed in the silent room. Patricia looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. Her laughter in the courtroom had turned into a $1,200 bill. A surprise she never saw coming. I packed my briefcase and walked out. I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, a cashier's check for $1,200 arrived in my mail. I used it to pay for a vacation. The locking cover remains on my outlet to this day, a small, metal monument to the day a petty tyrant learned that some things like electricity and justice always have a price.